Okay, we're back for part two.
Okay, did we left off?
So you started with the smeltery and
Yeah, exactly. I started on the mountain with the smeltery, and I started kind of like thinking about what to do with them. And my initial idea was like using the whole mountain, making into like a giant uh shape building, replacing kind of the shape of the mountain, which it was in um with this building.
mhm.
I kind of managed to do that. Um, it was kind of hard to do it, and I still went to like a flat type of building, so it's not
Mhm.
100% the mountain.
Did you end up falling into some of your old building behaviors that you wanted to avoid?
I did exactly, yeah. With the stone stuff.
I did the same thing.
Uh, I
Yep.
I use a lot of these cobblestone chisel bricks and all that.
Mhm.
I like them a lot, but I don't know. I feel like using them a lot. Was
Mhm.
kind of weird to having them again. So
So one of the things that I remember from your progression is that you just like in half the time that it took me to do things, you were cranking out like serious progression. Um, you have these I don't even know what these complexers are doing. Like coal coke. What's this all
um,
about?
yeah, this is just for cold coke. I think there's an entrance. Yeah, right here. You can go down here. So this is kind of my Botania area. This is all I did
Hmm.
from Botania.
This is
Just
I
kind of.
used and I'll cover this in a later video, but I used all of these little early pieces that everybody made to skip all the early steps and go straight to the major stuff. So that stuff, even
Okay.
if you didn't make use of it, like it was heavily used.
So this is like kind of my main area with my ME system in the later progress and all that.
Hmm.
Yeah, so this is basically just an automated steel ingot farm, like
Oh,
a really
wonderful!
old one.
And you didn't have enough
Um,
room in the ceiling, so those are the reasons why the pipes are sticking out.
yeah, it was kind of
Okay.
like I was trying to get progression instead of like fitting everything into the building, and so the building kind of grew around it.
So this is interesting to me.
Um,
So if you look at this hardened flux duct, it's actually losing power pretty quickly. Um, and I know that some of the systems, like I have many outdated systems, but I remember something that was really cool is that you were using these thermal expansion flux ducts, and they were kind of a pain in the ass. The first two tiers aren't that bad to make, but they're still kind of expensive. But they just don't. They're not very powerful. And the other conduit from Ender.io, which is very powerful, is really hard to make. And then Derm, I remember the first thing that I remember you being like peeved about was that Derm, this noob, makes his conduits out of the Buildcraft pipes, the Kinesis pipes,
yeah,
and those
they
things are
are
like straight terrible. But in this mod pack, they're so cheap that they're really good, right?
exactly. Yeah, I was kind of surprised by like trying to get resources for all these cables and like having enough power transfer, and then you just go over and see like, oh yeah, diamond pipe. Oh yeah, that can transport as much, and I was like, yeah, that still can transport.
Right. Yeah, it can transport for how expensive it is. All right. So before let's talk about this eyesore before we go into your base. So what did you discover with the sprinklers that transformed the whole server?
So basically, we found these XP berry bushes, which kind of everybody used to gain experience, to gain like basic enchanting and all that, the usual XP stuff you need. Um, After like some work with sprinklers, these kinds of sprinklers work with all these bushes, and they accelerate growth in them. As you can see, the berries will all grow and will be harvested really, really fast. And so this is basically a very fast XP farm, which
Right.
kind of is the only one on the server at this point.
Nobody else had to make one because you had one.
Yeah, and
But we
so
used
if
okay. So these AgriCraft sprinklers, they're different than the open block sprinklers, and they increase the rate at which block updates happen, and they have a multiplicative effect. So I think it's like let's say it's a 7% increase for the first one. Well, then it's a 49% increase for the next one, and then it's a just this exponential stacking effect,
Yes.
and you got me to do that on an let's see, an ender pearl farm, and we ended up with an excessive amount of ender pearls before shutting that down. And then you continued that theme here, and I have one of your crates around. I'll show it off later. It's got 5 million berries, and your chunk was primarily unloaded for the majority of the server's existence. So,
Yeah.
all right, what's inside?
I would start with this actually. So this is like kind of my first project on power. This is my huge wood water wheel tower, which I used to generate most of my early power.
Mm-hmm.
Built with my friend Johannes, which
Mm-hmm.
has been playing a lot with me until we took the big break.
Yep.
So yeah, this is kind of our first big project we had
Good use
to
of
generate.
signs in here to control water flow. And these are passive. So even though they took a lot of resources to make initially, a lot of creosote, you had a lot of creosote hanging around from your automated steel production.
Yep.
Things that I
Um,
never bothered to automate, which I would have definitely benefited from.
so then we kind of switched over to solar panels as well, which
Mm-hmm.
so we made like basic solar panels and increased them, and then we made this like advanced solar panel at some point, which
Yep.
should be an automated um, system somewhere here. There's an elevator over
Okay.
here.
And one of the things that I liked about your base is how easy it is to get around with those
Yes,
teleposers and the
come to
and
that in a second. So this is the main power storage. Um, I have two energy cells currently, which are just powering our main base, and the rest of the energy is all going into Tup's main network to
mm-hmm.
generate more power for him,
Mm-hmm.
which I did because I took my big break and I didn't need all that power, and I just wanted to have like some power to run the base so it wouldn't shut down all the time.
How does this transport pipe work? You've got it hooked up to the Tesseract. How
Um,
does this golden transport pipe supposed to work?
this was earlier on. This was my quarry tesseract, which transported my items. If you go on here, you can go to quarry lager, which is,
Okay.
so this is where the golden pipe went did go, and so everything the quarry produced was being sorted with Buildcraft pipe.
Oh, I
And
love this, man. I've never used Buildcraft diamond pipes, and they look really powerful.
it's a basic sorting tool at the beginning because they're cheap as well. Kind of dumb with his energy pipes gave me the
Right.
so so I had to increase for different things. We used quarries in the mining dimension, of course, and like stuff like wood would also pop up, like wood fences from villages and
Yep.
all that.
Yep.
It was kind of interesting to see. And then there was like this stuff for the rest of the things, like bees and all that would pop up in here.
Yep. Yep.
It
I really
was
like
kind of
this.
insane.
This is a really clean. You should see Derms. It's a fucking nightmare compared to this. So this is really clean. Good job.
It's my first attempt. Also, we have our oil incoming right here, which
Yep.
goes into the tank. My friend and me, we used oil as one of the ones on the server, which was kind of interesting. So everything on oil came down here and was produced in this refinery, and so we got some fuel, and all the fuel was filled into these huge fluid tanks from immersive engineering. They could hold up to 512 buckets of fluid each,
Wow.
which is the equivalent of a resonant ender tank.
Which was
But
very expensive compared to these structures, right?
exactly, they are. Ender pearls were pretty rare at this state in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go down one more, you will see where all the fuel was being used.
Now this part, was this primarily made by you or by Johannes?
My friend made most of this.
This,
Was all
I
his.
remember when you showed this to me, I was just going to give you a hard time about only using a water wheel, but this was a very productive combustion engine setup using that oil. And this is something that like Dan D Wolf, who's on our streams often, he wants to make something like this, but you were able to do this, keep it cool. You made tons and tons of energy, which you stored in this ridiculous network of batteries. I mean, the battery network that you have is just
It
excessive.
was super expensive to make.
Yep, yep. And I think that's because draconium was pretty rare, and you couldn't make the draconium battery right away.
Yep. So we couldn't use all the power every time, so we made this network of redstone to disable all the engines at once or enable
I
them.
still don't understand. Like, you showed me how this works, and this is just incredible. Because so for anybody watching, Billcraft will turn off, I think, if it has a redstone signal, or will turn on if it has a
Uh,
redstone signal.
Turn on. It needs a redstone signal to
Okay.
work.
And so he uses that because the combustion engines will run nonstop, create useless energy. They'll overheat. There's problems with that. So very clever.
Yeah. The water system was kind of necessary first because if they wouldn't get cooled enough, they would just destroy themselves and they would get black, and you had to break them and use all it would break all the fuel in it.
And all these
So
things are, these aqueous accumulators and all that. Those are very tedious crafts that you made before having the applied energistics.
yeah, some of them are even this one is resonant because I didn't know. I made one resonant. I thought it would produce more water because we had a big water problem in here, and I ended up had to make an accumulator for each row of these because I
Interesting.
think like one of them uses like 20% of what an accumulator produces.
Okay. Okay.
So
So in the future, if you're interested, you can get uh, a transfer node and put world interactions upgrades in it. A fluid transfer node.
yeah, that's would be the next upgrade to it.
Yep. Yep. All right. So what's next?
My portal area probably. So go down.
This is the Eingangshalle.
Eingangshalle. It's German and means entrance hall.
Okay, fair enough. So this is, and
So
this is actually the front of your house, like of your base. So this
yeah,
is
this was
this was the derelict mining caves that you used to great effect, and then this was the,
yeah.
if I can get in here.
So this was the huge portal area. Basically, everybody had to use because I made most of the first portals,
Yep.
which was kind of good for me, I guess, because it was kind of it always annoyed me on servers that I had to use like I would come out of other nether portal from another player and I would have to walk back and all that.
And you were the first. I'm going to enter in your mining dimension. You were the first person to open up the mining dimension, and I think the
Exactly.
second person to open up the Twilight Forest. But you might have been the first. I just got 15 fucking eggs. So yeah, this is the mining dimension. This is my project over here, which we won't look at yet. But yeah, Cgamer, you set up the first ender quarries, and that's when you took the big first technological leap, or maybe.
Johannes and I worked hard for this quarry, and it was our first big project, I guess. Running it was even harder because we needed all the power, and we needed to transfer it to another dimension, so we needed a tesseract as well.
Which was a huge obstacle, yeah.
So if we go back up, I think there's more. Yes, go up until you can see me again.
All right.
Okay, so back at the main area level. So this is my dimensional transmitter, which I used later on to get to my quarry.
Okay.
I think
And this is
right now
RF Tools, and even though I played with RF Tools this expansion, I didn't mess with it enough. So all these things to me, like these travel anchors and the use of this dimensional portal, like that's so cool. And and part of me thinks that the reason why you were able to innovate these things is the absence of a portal gun in the early part of the game. And the point that gets me to is what I really liked about this mod pack, and maybe you can agree with me, is that everything was gated so much that it pushed you to innovate solutions to the same problem from different mod packs.
Exactly. I like the progression a lot, which was pretty good. Because the progression was kind of always like, oh yeah, you would always use NRA, or you would never use like Buildcraft pipes or flux ducts. So it's kind of like having to use all these machines was kind of interesting for once. Like you actually needed them instead of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make them, but well, it doesn't
And then
actually
you
use
don't.
them.
Yep. Yeah, like
Because
these things too. This is a design that I absolutely love. That you have this in the wall like this. This looks great.
Yeah, exactly. You need the metal presses to make like early plates and like
Hmm.
rods and all that, and ingot.
Yeah, during your big break, I spent more time in your base using your machines to process things for my projects than I did anywhere else. I spent a lot of time in front of this group here, and it's probably been changed a little bit from what you remember it. Not that much, but like maybe a conduit's missing or something like that.
Yeah,
And then
it's
I spent a lot of time over here waiting for thousands and thousands of gears to be pressed by your metal press. Yeah. The server's first dragon kill heart is right here. So that's cool. Any other, let's see.
I think we
You had the
yeah,
QED station somewhere?
QED exactly. There's if you go here, there's
Yep.
an extra travel anchor for it. QED.
I know where that is because I used it a bunch.
So this is basically just like kind of advanced ore production for
Hmm.
ores that didn't get pulverized, like or didn't need to get pulverized like
Hmm.
redstone.
What's funny to me is that even though this machine is super advanced, you've got this crappy old wooden transport pipe and this redstone engine.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. All right, let's
So
see. What's next?
I think now the outside projects, I
Okay.
believe so.
Yeah.
So to this area over.
So, a couple big outside projects. The first one was the viaduct, which we took over here, which was awesome. And then you had this massive. You were going to make this series of farms, right?
Yes, I had the plan to make this whole biome, which was like a super annoying uh, area to terraform. I was trying to make it all into like one giant complex of agricraft
Yep. Very
machines
ambitious.
and farms and all that. Like it's just a super flat area instead of like a big tower like my base is.
Yep.
Um, so basically, I used IC2 terraformer, which was like one of the only ways to generate dirt in like a huge amount because there was a huge dirt problem on the server. Like nobody had
Yes.
dirt because there was no way to actually make dirt instead. Because you needed like zombie flash and all.
Yep.
You would
And we
need like a
weren't willing
huge
to butcher the landscape. We had a rule no
exactly.
quarrying in the overworld, so there was no way to get a lot of
Yeah,
dirt.
but basically this is like kind of the opposite. Like terraforming, this was I'm still hating myself for doing this because this is
Triggered because of the way
Mhm.
this worked out, right? This it was a slow process and it made this unpleasant terrain features on the side of it. You notice
Oh,
where all this gray stuff is, Cgamer? I actually I had such a dirt problem that I actually stole a whole layer of dirt from you after you went on your big break. Yeah.
exactly. So the terraform is still here with connected to your power. We did that like
Yep.
last time,
Yep.
I
Yep.
believe. So this area is like fully worked out, right? As it is now.
Yep.
Um, and that's the range of the terraformer. But it
But
will
look at what the
also,
yeah, but look what it also does, which is unfortunate.
yeah, like place blocks in a huge range, which it doesn't even like finish for
I
some
know.
reason.
Yeah, it would be nice if it just did this block and not this extra stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, at the beginning I used the filler from no, not Buildcraft. I
RF
think it
tools,
was
right?
RF tools. Yeah, it was to eliminate like huge mountains in here
Mm-hmm.
and like stuff I didn't need.
Yep. So
Yeah,
there's
this
one
is
special project that's very near and dear to me. I want you to finish with the smeltery, but are there any other projects that you worked on out in the
um
world aside from that? So we'll save that for last.
let's see, what project else did I have? Hmm. Earlier on, I gave some power to Top to make his big, huge tower of Wellington Tower,
Yep.
which you will see in his video. Um, but otherwise, I think that's all my big projects.
Okay. And so, as for folks that are going to watch the later videos, the infrastructure that Cgamer made here was and Derm 2 was vital to all of the projects that I made. I was able to use their infrastructure to kind of just build a clean individual products of massive scale. So there's going to be a big difference between the you know, the features. You'll notice that when we get to my base in a later video that it's very humble compared to the projects that these guys have worked on, and that's the reason for it. Got the German flag, Cgamers from Germany. It's pretty cool. I really like this part.
My friend insisted on putting a flag in.
I like that when I asked you about it, you were like, yeah, he's... the impression that I got was he was kind of creating an us versus them situation, which was kind of fun. I don't know. So, any last things before we move on to your glorious smeltery, which I am still a huge fan of?
I think this is all of it. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting anything. Pretty sure I have everything on my list checked.
Some of the last recounts. So Cgamer's wearing the jet plate, the dark jet plate, which is super hard to make. I think it's dark solarium jet plate. And effectively, if you put effectively with this XP farm, he's been made immortal. So even though he doesn't have the very last armor, the draconic armor, which I'm sure he could crank out no problem, he's actually faster and probably as durable, if not immortal, because of this XP farm that he's got there. So he was super technologically advanced. And yeah, so let's talk about the fucking biggest cosmetic thing that you did. That's super cool.
Over here.
When you came back from your break, yeah.
Went past it.
I did, okay.
Over here.
This thing.
So I took a huge break because I was kind of stressed by the game, and I was kind of like pushing myself too much to progress in the tech tree. So I kind of took a big break, and I came back like 2, 3 months, 4 months later, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna grab tops like basic materials and put them into something I want to build. And it was like, yeah, my smeltery looks kind of stupid on my tower over there. So I moved the smeltery over here, and I made it into glorious.
And it is glorious, dude. This thing looks so cool.
I was kind of experimenting with different fluids and, like in single player, how to make it better, make it look better, which blocks to use and all.
So what's the big secret here? So here's the smeltery, and there's a big reveal.
So this isn't kind of a huge smeltery. This is even smaller than the one I used in my base, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Just by a bit, but it's almost the one I used. There's a big lever on the back.
Yep.
Which you can press, which will open up sideways, and it will make the smeltery bigger downstairs.
So that opens up this door, right? So I'm going to close it real quick. So this is what the smeltery looks like normally. And Cgamer put this single piston in here, which actually opens up side access, which you wouldn't necessarily know. And when you climb down here, you get the rest of the smeltery. This is so cool, dude. Like, I know that it's not finished, but this is so sick. And down here you have new exhaust points, and I think the controller above still works, right?
Yes, the controller still works. My plan was kind of using this downstairs area to make like smeltery for big blocks. Like if you needed like a huge amount of iron or something, if you wanted like smelt just a bunch of stuff.
Which I've done at your base.
Yeah. You would use all the space in the smeltery because it takes like ages to smelt like cobblestone and everything. You needed like molten stone and everything. So the upper area was just kind of like for creating single tools and all that because you didn't need as much space.
Man,
that was the kind of idea for it.
It's a great idea, man. It's so aesthetic and it's just awesome. It's just awesome. I saw this the first day and I was just blown away. And how well the redstone control worked, and that you were using these wireless redstone receivers, which I think are fantastic. I've never mastered them at all. Super awesome.
Yeah, redstone is still one of my favorite things to use.
For sure. Man, that's so cool.
I had a lot of fun making the smeltery. Good,
man. That's good. And it turned out excellent. I'm going to take a screenshot, actually, and put it into the Discord one more time. Okay, so I've got about 5 or 10 minutes left to talk about this stuff. I want to know what were a few things that you really liked about this server experience, this mod pack, playing with a bunch of Americans, playing with Johannes. What were some of the things that you loved about your time here in Minecraft?
I think one of my favorite things was like the new progression thing, like not being able to progress to anything that's further without you can't just basically skip everything. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to say.
Yep.
So yeah, you had to go through like almost every mod. If you wanted to go through like late game items, if you wanted to go to Draconic, you had to do magic and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was way better than what I was used to.
Now,
Because
is that true even though, like, everybody knows? Okay, there's only one person who actually did the creative items, and there's only 2 people, maybe 3 people, that ended up getting Draconic. And we all ended up using each other's magic stuff, or I should say, I ended up using everybody else's magic stuff. And that's because there were 2 trees, right? There was a tech progression tree and a magic progression tree, and if you wanted to get the end all be all, you had to go down both. But it felt like once you made it to the end of the tech tree that you're already super powerful. And so that is that a criticism for you, or did because
yeah, at the end of the tech tree, it was kind of like maybe I wasn't at the end of the tech tree, but it was kind of like, oh yeah, now you have to start with magic and all that. And I was kind of like stuck with building. I had to build like a lot of areas because like my base looks like a huge mess, and I wasn't really happy with that. So I
yeah,
wanted to build, but I also got frustrated by building because like plans like the area like the agricraft area I wanted to do like a huge terraforming thing didn't work out as planned, and took me a huge amount of time and energy to.
and when I start these servers, what I imagine is something like what you've built here. That every one of my areas is going to look this fucking cool, and it never does. It always looks like Derm space, which is which is basically insanity in its pure form. Just trying to get to the next thing. So, for me, my next resolution is on the next mod pack. I want to focus on doing cool things like what you've done here, so that when I have a smeltery, yeah, it takes me an extra long time to do it, but it's this really cool thing that I really love using every time that I use it. And just slowing down the mod pack more, because I think a lot of us were in a rush all the time.
Exactly, that's how my base looks right now.
Okay,
um
so aside from the magic thing, what are a couple things that you didn't like about this, either the server experience or this mod pack in general?
First, I would still continue with a few things I was still
Oh, certainly, certainly.
like
Please, yes.
it was a huge blast, like playing on the server with so many different people.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting to see what everybody would go for, what everybody would try and do, and what everybody would build, and just every type of different progression everybody would make. And
Yeah,
it was
maybe that every person had their own solutions that were different.
yeah, everybody used like different pipes, everybody used
Yeah,
different like maybe redstone mechanics or no redstone mechanics.
yeah.
It was just a lot of fun to see different perspectives and learning new things about different items you can use and all that.
Yeah, man. I think, God, like that was my when I played this mod pack a couple years ago. That was my first experience, and here it was even happening again. The novel solutions that you had for things. Like you were the only person that really messed with redstone a lot. Durham was the person who really took a deep dive into magic. Locke had these like brute force techniques, which I think you've seen his tower of 30 water wheels.
Yes.
So like that was really cool. I think one of the most powerful things was something that you brought to the server, which was the auto smelting Fortune 3 hammer from Tinker's Construct, which allowed us to almost duplicate or triplicate steel when we got to a certain point in the game, and that was just amazingly useful.
And I'm
So.
still using it to this point.
Oh yeah, I see it. You're wearing it right now. Yeah, that thing. You let me use
Just
it one time, and it changed the game for the whole server. Yeah.
it was super interesting to see that. I was kind of like at the point where it's like, oh yeah, I can make it, and I was like, so Top made and Silk Touch
Yep.
silk touch hammer, which so basically we ended up making everybody else's hammer. So you used the auto smelting. I'm tried to make a silk touch hammer as well.
Hmm. And
It
I
was
eventually put the Silk Touch hammer away and favored the one that you made. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's a really good point that you've made about how different people had different solutions. And to be honest, man, that was the reason why I was encouraging us to have different bases and our own progression in a way, but have cooperation, you know?
Yes, exactly. I like the power of a corporation a lot. Like you being able to make your validating tower to generate your power.
Hmm.
So you I kind of gave like a startup energy, and it was like a super huge blast you when you finally got your first energy out of the tower.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was great. It was I love that. That's definitely my favorite part about the server. Okay, cool. So on the next round, so I'm looking at Enigmatica 2, and I don't know if you're going to be around for the next version of the server, which probably won't be for almost a year, probably 2 years, right? But I'll
okay.
definitely be dropping you a line. Are there any things that you would like to see differently, or would you just like, because that's going to be in patch 1.12, or would you just like to recreate this experience?
Maybe not recreate this experience. I always love something new. The thing I didn't like as much about this is that I kind of got burned out by the game. That I kind of forced myself too much to put things into progression, but I still wanted to build. So it ended up in this huge mess of I want to get some progression. I want to get
Yeah,
magic and all everything, and
yeah, yeah.
but I also want to have like cool areas like this one. This like alone took me like I don't know couple of few hours. But so this is basically just a small project, which would end up being one of the smaller ones. So creating the huge areas would take a lot more time, and then
So,
would lose like
yeah. So I want to, just for comparison, if you can come southwest a little bit, follow me a bit. I want to show you my version of what you did. You've seen it before. Let me see if I can find it. You said this is kind of. You said that your thing was kind of a small project. This is as far as I got with my own smeltery. So like, your project is far from small, my friend. Like, this was my little baby smeltery. Yeah.
it's a better smattery for creating tools though. It's a lot
Yeah,
better.
and that's I mean like yeah, it's a different it has certainly has a different purpose, but you know, I was going to your base all the time to use your smelter for a good reason.
Yeah, my smattery was just kind of like at this point creating the huge amount of ingots we needed
Yep.
from to make more progression, which were generated all by the quarry. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was good. I loved the cooperation. I love the creativity that you have here in this thing, the different chisel blocks. I'm looking forward to it. Um Enigmatic 2 maybe in a year or two, and maybe it'll be more of a focus on cooperation. We'll see how it goes. I know that they have a better developed quest book, so with more rewards, so it might be a different experience all by itself.
yeah,
Okay, well I'm gonna do the
um,
closeout here, Cgamer man. We've been hanging out for I think almost a year and a half at this point, and I'm about to go into a Dead Cells revival on Twitch here in the next couple weeks. It has been a real pleasure to make your acquaintance and to share your friendship all the way across the ocean. I'm not just saying that for YouTube. That's sincere from my heart to you. And even the tough times where we had some tension, like I'm glad that we've weathered these storms, and I'm glad to have met you.
exactly. That's a huge Twitch thing I love. Like
Yeah.
community thing is not just like a saying. Like so yeah, this was lasting a huge long time, and it was. I'm glad I joined this.
Yeah. Good, man. All right, I'm gonna end the server now. You have any last comments before I end the not the server, the video?
I'm out.
All right, man. See ya.